Hello, welcome to today's video, and today we are on the outskirts of Blackpool, I believe, and this is the old shipwreck just on the mouth of the river. So I've got to have a little look around. I've got no sort of particular sky to play with. I've got pretty much nothing. It's very, very flat, but we're here, we're gonna have a go, and hopefully we'll get some images like this. I thought I'll just set myself up here really. I've had a bit of a look around. I can see lots of images that I'd like to take, but I thought I'd sort of settle for this one first. It's difficult to know how to approach this. I've never seen this before. Because I was working about 10 minutes away from here, I just did a quick Google search as to what's interesting in the area, and I noticed that with the river here, this graveyard is actually on Google Maps. So there are a few images on there, I think, that you know, kind of showed the area, so I thought, oh, why not pay it a visit. Conditions aren't particularly brilliant. You've got lots of blue sky, no real interesting clouds. So what do we do in that situation? Well, for me, what I like to try and do is take the wide shots first and then gradually work my way in to then take some very sort of intimate shots, sort of more simplified shots where you might be dealing with just the colour or just shapes or just texture. But you know, just to get fired up to start with, I think take some wide shots first. And I think this shot here, I like this composition, but I think with the sky being so uninteresting, it's going to kind of distract from the image overall. So I might come back to this one a little bit later after I've explored around the place. But here's the image anyway. Who would have thought it had been so hard to hide the sky? Well, there's still a huge amount of blue sky. The cloud is gradually coming across, but it's a really weird looking cloud. Nothing sort of stormy or anything like that, which will be, you know, ideal in an ideal situation, but we haven't got it, so stop moaning about it, eh? So what we can do, the options that we've got really is to maybe try and compose the image so that there's something sticking into the sky just to fill it up a little bit. Now, I've brought myself in a lot closer so I can make use of the textures and stuff in this rotting wood on the side of the boat. I am inclined to maybe bring the camera down, which will cause that post to be higher up in the sky, more prominent in the image, but it's also going to take in a lot of this beautiful sort of rotted timber here. And also as another focus point, we've got the red box, which is at the top. But again, that's going to be competing against the whites of the sky. So I don't know, we'll see how we go. But I'm going to take 2 or 3 images around here and see which one I like the best. And that's the one I'll put up now. was hoping it was going to get easier to compose with the sky, but that's not the case at the minute. At the back of the camera, it's just showing up white on everything. So I'll talk you through the composition and then how I'm thinking about dealing with this white sky. The way I've got the composition is I've got all this lovely hole in the side of the vessel in the right hand side of the frame and along the bottom, but I've got a shallow depth of field on to give the image a bit of depth, and I'm focusing on the vessel, which is about 15 meters behind. So I focused on that to make that in sharp focus, and this should be in in softer focus, so it just kind of brings the viewer into the image, into the depth of the image, because we always talk about composing on the rule of thirds and all that sort of stuff, which is fine, but composition also involves the depth of the picture as well. So you don't always have to have, sometimes it's nice because if it's a waterfall or whatever, you would like to have everything in sharp focus, but it's not always important, I don't think. And sometimes if you can make use of a shallow depth of field, just to get rid of some of the stuff that you don't want, just by putting it out of focus a little bit to draw your attention in. Now this example might not be the best example, but that's kind of how I'm putting the picture together in my mind. And we've only got this sort of like 2-inch screen to view it on, so when I get it back in post I'll have another look, but that's the intention behind the photograph. But I've got to also deal with the sky because there's a lot of shadows going on here, and there's a very, very, very bright nondescript sky behind it. So I think that's where we can possibly do a bracket to try and get some of that detail in. Now, the image on the back of the camera at the moment is very, 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 very dark, and I'm hoping I should be able to reclaim some of those details in the shadow back in post, because I'm making sure the histogram isn't sort of flatlining to the left or to the right. But I just want to be safe when it comes to the sky. Now, I don't particularly like sky replacement as such, but you can expose for the sky, and I think adding those over, it's still the same image, just with a few different settings. So I'm going to bracket this image, I think, but this is the composition. I hope it's worked out. I'm not sure if it's not the strongest image in the world, but that's kind of my way of thinking when it comes to the depth of an image. Depth of field is a very interesting thing to use when you're trying to draw somebody's eye into your image. Now, you've got your rule of thirds, left to right, up and down for the horizon and what have you, and your sort of your placement of things within the image, but obviously using the depth to lead the eye into the depth of the image is an ever useful tool. Now, you can have something in focus right at the foreground, and then that leads everything off behind it to be very, very soft, and you can play with textures and colours and stuff in the background to give something complementary to something that's at the front of the image, or you can have the complementary colours and the very soft effects at the beginning of the image, and it'd be very sharp at the back, and that will then obviously draw the eye in. So what I've done on this occasion is I'm just trying to balance the picture up so that this metal stanchion here, which has got lots of reds and yellows and whites and blacks and stuff all over it, and some texture of the iron where it's basically been rotting, that's in the foreground. The lines and the discoloration and the texture of the wood that's rotting goes off to the point, and on the point is some very, very bright yellow lichen or lichen and stuff at the end. Now I'm hoping that, even though it's in a soft focus, should pull the eye towards the back of the image because it's a little lighter. That's my way of thinking, and this is the image. Well, I'm not going to lie, it's pretty stinky around here when you start walking around and disturbing all the mud. Definitely time for boots. I've got walking boots on, but it's not, it's not too good. You start walking around, it starts smelling quite nicely. But again, on this shot, I think it's worth it. We're obviously dealing again with a shallow depth of field. Now there's some like a work plate or places where they used to have dials and stuff on the boat there. So again, we've got this lovely texture again at the front, and just using that as a frame on the bottom and the side of the frame gives you something that gives you that look that you're sort of looking into something. And again, focusing on that sort of plate and the detail that's on in there. I think that should lead the eye into that brightest point, slap bang in the centre of the image. Well, that's the feeling anyway. Well, I thought I was going to try and be a little bit clever. That doesn't happen very often. Now, because you've got all that lovely texture again, that's probably the word of the video, I think, texture. I feel like I've used it quite a lot today. You've got all these sort of detail on the sides. You've got all the old paint, you've got the rust, you've got the just sheer decay of the boat. But you've got a few interesting shapes. Now, the clouds have come in. They're absolutely, as you can see, they're doing absolutely nothing. There's no point hanging around for sunset or anything like that, because the sky's not good at all. Now, if the sun was out, I probably would have used this to a bit more effect, where you can sort of play with the shadow. You've got the curvature of the boat there, which is going into shadow. Now, there is some sort of thing on the side of the boat that is obviously an interesting shape. Now, what I've tried to do is try to keep that right up into the top corner. And the reason why I'm doing that is because if I go too much over to the left, I'll end up picking up the sky behind it. And I want to get rid of the sky, keep the sky out of it. I've taken a couple of images having that sort of kind of more prominent and more in your face in the image. But what I've done here is I've moved myself quite the ways back, and I'm trying to keep that up in the top left-hand corner, that shape in the top left-hand corner of the image. And you've got all the ribbing of the, I don't know what you would call it. I suppose it's, it's the wood that they put on the side of the boats to stop it banging into the docks and what have you. So you've got all those protection strips on the side, again, which are all rotten, but you've got that lovely line, and with all the lovely colour and stuff that's in there as well. It looks quite cool. And with the boat, the hull of the boat going in underneath itself, you've got this sort of like dark edge along the bottom of the image. I'm kind of trying to use that as some sort of frame to bring your eye back up to the top. There's no particular highlights as such, but again, with going back into post, you can just kind of bring out the shadows a little bit, just to give that feeling of depth where the boat is going in underneath. Now, I don't have a huge depth of field capabilities on this camera. I think I'm shooting at f5, which is quite mediocre really, but that's the most open this lens will go at this focal length. So I can't really isolate anything on that one, but you just might round the edges get a little bit of drop off where the boat disappears at the bottom of the image. Again, it's one of those, it's kind of in my mind, that's what I'm trying to do with it. If it works out, don't know, let's have a look. Okay, so what I'm trying to achieve in this image is just show how depth of field can be used to kind of add a little bit of a bit of mystery, maybe. It could be done to add all sorts of things to your image as part of the storytelling of your image. What I've done is I've focused in on a piece of timber that could have fallen off the vessel that's in behind, and so by focusing in on that detailed piece of rotten timber and the way it's been made and what have you, and just leaving the boat out of focus but silhouetted in the background by leaving the bow and the stern kind of in shot, giving you that boat shape. My feeling is that it might give a little bit of credence to the story of that this piece of timber came off this poor old broken up boat. That's kind of what I was thinking. Let's see if it worked out. Interesting hour. I do enjoy these sort of location scouting sort of moments. Definitely come back when it's well, the sky's different because there's just nothing going on today. Sunrise, sunset, something like that would give you some really, really good images. But yeah, if you like the images that you've seen today and you'd like to leave a like and subscribe, and any comments are much appreciated. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Bye for now.